My name's Philip Bloom. I'm a filmmaker from London.
Fantastic. And can you tell me what exactly would you describe as a typical day in what you do? Or is there one?
A typical day for me starts with me waking up after not enough sleep at a stupid time. I haven't gone to bed not long prior to that. And it could, really, there's no such thing. And that's the thing with the filmmakers, there's no such thing as a typical day. Unless you're doing like a long movie where your days are very repetitive. It could be anything. I could be editing. I could be going to a shoot. I could be, I wish I could be at home doing nothing, which is never really happens. There's always something to do. There's no real typical day, but it's always busy. It's always busy. And I have a website as well, which requires an enormous amount of time working on. So if I'm not editing, and I'm not shooting, not working out the next shoots, then I'm working on the website. So there's always something to do.
I had a look at your website actually because I wanted some advice about shooting with the C300, so I had a look at some of your stuff, which was quite good.
Yeah.
Very good. So do you find out at this point with your work that you actually spend a lot of time in kind of the business side in terms of organising, or do you find that people are just bringing you stuff and you don't really have to do too much of that yourself?
You mean sourcing work?
Yeah.
I don't really have to source jobs like I used to. I used to be, constantly sending off stuff. I mean, I'm lucky enough to get a lot of offers come through, and trying to find the right ones and the ones which work into the diary is always a bit of a challenge. And always ones that interest me and challenge me. Doesn't always happen. You could. It's like famine or feast of famine. It's like sometimes you get all the great jobs together, but all clash, and then you'll get the really mediocre, dull jobs come along. You just have to take them because it is a fine balance. It's better to earn money doing something which isn't particularly fantastic than sitting at home doing nothing. So, but I'm lucky enough definitely to actually be able to get work offered to me. It took a long time to get there though.
And speaking of getting a lot of time there, could you just go through how you're in? I mean, many of us consider you, in an idealistic way, in kind of look up to you, and that you're in a very brilliant position now. How did you kind of get there? Where did you start? Was there a clear plan, or did things just kind of come and you kind of took them as they appeared?
There's never been a plan with my career at all. Ever since I decided I wanted to get into TV, which was when I was 17, I think. It was a case of, what do I want to do with my life? And I'm like, I don't know. I like photographs, so I thought about being a photographer, and then I was told to get into TV. So that's kind of how that started. I never had a real plan. And then after doing news, I fell in love with the whole sort of like reality, the real world as such, and fell into some documentaries after that. And no real goal or anything like that. Still, people say to me, "What do you want to do? Where's your next step?" I'm like, I don't know. I'm enjoying myself. I'm trying to find new challenges and new things to do, and keep happy, keep creative. And the moment I fall out of love with what I'm doing, then I'm doing something wrong. I'm lucky enough to be doing my hobby, because when I'm not actually shooting for fun, for pay, I'm doing it for fun. Like, I'm actually having my first holiday in bloody years next weekend for a week. I'm still going to bring a camera with. I'm going to bring a 4K camera. I'm serious. I'm going to bring a 4K camera. I'm going to shoot some stock of. I'm going to Crete, and I'm going to shoot some stock footage of some of these old ruins in 4K.
You take 4 TVs with you.
I won't be able to watch it, not in 4K, but I'll be able to sell it, hopefully.
That's an interesting question, actually. Do you see, because you were talking a lot about different cameras, and are you one of those guys who kind of, what really, you were talking about different interviews, how you did each one completely differently. Is it the form that you kind of love? Is it working with different lenses? Is that a bigger drive for you than the content of what you're doing, or do you find they're kind of in balance with each other?
What do you mean, sorry? I don't really.
What is it that
you mean? Do I like technology over content?
No. Do you? Well, not in that sense of just technology, but is it the use of the cameras themselves and how they work and what you can do with them, which primarily interests you, as opposed to what you're necessarily shooting with them?
No, the camera and the technology is the least important part of a filmmaker. For a filmmaker, it should be. The fact is, we have amazing tools now, and they come hand in hand. What they do is they will reignite your passion. They certainly did when it came, sort of 5D Mark II came out, right? Reignited a lot of passion in people, so they were filming a lot more. So it did drive more stuff being made, without a doubt, to a point. And then you get to a point where, okay, we've had this for a while now, so the novelty's worn off, and we're using it as a tool to help us tell the story. And that comes along with lots of new tools whenever you get them. So you get a camera that shoots really high frame rates, and you'll shoot everything. It's super slow motion, and then you realise actually, okay, that was great, but how is this actually helping me tell a story? It's not. So then you use it sparingly, if at all. The tools are all there now, and that's what's amazing. It means it's a freeing thing for me. A great camera is a camera that just doesn't get in my way, that creates beautiful images without too much of an effort to understand, how the camera's intricacies work, as in the menus and things like that. Some of them are so fiddly, it's horrible. I like cameras that just work, give me great images, and I love the high sensitivity of the cameras as well. Not because I don't want to light, it just means I can be much more creative in my lighting. The new camera technology is the best thing for a filmmaker, because it frees us from, makes things affordable, and it gives us the freedom to make things look incredibly fantastic without spending that much money. When the 5D Mark II came along, it started something really quite special, and it's just getting better and better.
And if you feel that that's the case, that now filmmaking is kind of freer than it has been, that people have all the opportunities they want, what is important for people to focus on now? What is the key things people should be working on for themselves in order to aim towards getting perhaps where you are now, or to achieve, to tell the stories they want to tell?
I don't know what I would be doing right now. If I was starting right now, it would be really, really difficult to kind of know how to actually get out there and get to do stuff, because I had a very traditional career path of working within a broadcaster and working my way up through the ranks to get to certain points. To go out there and just have a camera and do things it's freeing, but it's also terrifying in that so does everybody else. And it's trying to get yourself noticed. Because if the 5D Mark II leveled the playing field, that means everybody's on the playing field at the same level, and you've got to kind of get yourself noticed. And that's where your talent comes through. Not just talent, your ability to sell yourself, the confidence as well. It's a harder market now than it's ever been to break into. And that's simply down to the fact that the gear is more affordable, and there's a lot more people out there. You just need to find a way to get noticed and get yourself the work that you deserve if you have the talent.
So if you were looking for a project, does that mean that you kind of, if people say, oh well, we've got this film we want to shoot, but we've got this gear or this money behind us, that you now more than ever look at kind of the story at the beginning, and that's got to be your key, because anyone has the tools to make the story, but the key of the story is...
You can shoot most things on any camera. Most things. I mean, this is a generalization. Obviously, you want to shoot like news on a Red. I wouldn't want to shoot like the new, say, Star Trek on a 550D. It's the right camera for the right job, but technically, you can tell a story on any camera. It's just about how to make it easier for yourself. So when I look at work, the camera is never in the discussion at the beginning. Never. It's all about what is it you want to make. Tell me about what you want for your company. Tell me what it is about your vision that you want to see. And then that's further down the line. We talk about technology and cameras. The only time that is different is when you work for certain bigger clients where they say, we want to shoot this on Epic. If we even entered into any conversation about what it is they want, saying, we want to make a campaign about this product shot on Epic for the web. And you're like, why? Why do you want to shoot on the Epic? Because it's the best camera out there. I'm like, okay. It's more expensive and will require a lot more money in post for you to deal with. And like, yeah, we're aware of that. Okay, that's fine. If you want to shoot on that, it's fine. That's occasionally the situation you deal with. The most important thing is not the actual camera at all. I wouldn't shoot a project because somebody says we're shooting on Red. I'm like, oh, I want to shoot on Red. Fantastic. Unless you've never had experience on it and you want to get experience on it.
Sure. Do you feel that that now there's less, what would you say, freedom of, when less things were available, or when the equipment was more difficult to use, there was more leeway on how those kind of things could go wrong or work, but now everything has to be perfect, that when you make a piece, that those things have to be spot on?
What do you mean they need to be spot on?
Well, there was when I remember when I used to shoot on kind of DV and other and older materials, that there was people more ready to accept that that things kind of weren't perfect because there had been technical mistakes or some of the equipment was more complicated. And now that's not the case. People just expect things to be crystal clear. When you shoot in HD, you have less leeway than you did in terms of detail of focus. Or
certainly when you're talking about new technology and high resolution cameras, your skill level needs to be higher, without a doubt. You know, if you're going to shoot 4K, you need to know how to keep focus. You need to have, you know, whether it's a focus puller, you need to have deep depth field, you need to have a knowledge and make sure these things are great. Because you will see more stuff out of focus in 4K than you will in standard definition, where everything looks kind of out of focus these days because of what we're used to. So will people spot more mistakes? Quite possibly, without a doubt, but probably more so just with that. The other disciplines like sound haven't really changed. Sound is sound. Sound has always needed to be perfect anyway. What is going to change is what has changed is expectations now. So because you can get great images for less money, people expect things to look fantastic, and when they don't, they question it. But I think less about sort of like small errors and stuff like that. Again, it really depends on the client. I was rewatching a big American TV series from the start, and it's only like a few years old. It's not old. It's only just finished. So it's 5 years old, and I was watching the first 3 seasons on a big screen because I wanted to really enjoy it at home, and I was shocked at how often focus was missed. Absolutely shocked. I'm like, bloody hell, I never noticed because I was watching it on TV and don't really notice it. And it was probably about 75% at the time. Shot film, 35, and focus was missed so often. And it's fascinating to see that. And it's actually quite nice to see that, to know that, you know, I kill myself when I see something that's not in focus. Tiny little thing, didn't nail it. And you see these big budget shows where focus was missed constantly.
They're mere mortals too kind of thing.
It's down to the technology. They're shooting film, which is obviously, you know, is harder in that, you know, it comes down to the focus puller really actually going off proper focus marks because they can't see anything other than that. And if they haven't got it, they don't know. Whereas these days they're all shooting Alexa and they have these high resolution screens and they can see when they haven't missed it. So they their mark might be slightly off and they can see to adjust it to actually get it. So you watch like the seasons 4 or 5 of this show, and they've got focus 99% of the time, which is quite fascinating.
No, it seems that, no, certainly.
Technology is really, it has helped people without a doubt more than anything.
So what would you say then to people would be kind of the key things that they should focus on if they want to kind of develop? You're talking downstairs about the balance between talent and confidence, about which key things should people, or you said that downstairs that people needed to kind of give a bit more. What do you think really will be the key to people moving forward now in the way the industry has become and where it's going?
The best thing you can do right now in Ravensbourne is you have a pool of talented people. You need to work with these people now. Before you all disappear into your different directions at the end of your course, work with them and develop stuff with them as teams. Find people you work with really well and complement each other. If you don't have very much confidence but you have an amazing skill when it comes to operating a camera, then work with somebody who has great confidence who can help you and you can work together. And I think if you can find this pool of people and talent and collaborate and keep in touch with, you've got a head start over people who are starting without this, without a doubt. Finding people to work with who you can trust and complement each other is really, really hard in the real world. And if you spend that 3 years that you're here developing that, you have a head start over people who don't have that by far. I definitely think that's the best advantage of certainly being at a college like Ravensbourne.
So, thank you very much. Welcome. Do you guys need any more cutaways or are you good?
I think we're good.
You need more?
Cool.
You have
Well, just one general question.
Please jump in.
So just wondering, because I noticed, like, obviously, like, you come from broadcasts into film. Did you always have film, kind of like documentaries, that kind of thing, within your path to go on, or was it?
I mean, not really in film. I mean, all I see documentaries, you know, they're feature documentaries or not, that is an extension of what I was doing before. When I was working at Sky, the last few years of my career were about long form pieces, whether they were 10, 12 minutes long or half hours. So when I went into freelance, I jumped straight into broadcast current affairs shows and documentary shows, which again were just extensions of what I was doing. And to go into a feature documentary, again, it's a natural progression. What isn't a natural progression is like doing things like music videos or commercials or fiction. That's when you're getting out of your comfort zone to try new things. And I think it's incredibly important to do that. Certainly going to something big budget like Red Tails was completely different for me, and a good experience, but showed me straight away that this is not a path I really want to go down. I like shooting documentaries. I love real stories of real people. I love working in very small teams where everybody becomes, you finish an interview and your cameraman asks a question. That's brilliant. I think that's the way it should be. It's working as a team, working together, and not working in this massive, massive, massive machine that you don't know who half the people are. You know what half the people do. And for me, it just slows everything down. I love working in teams, but small teams. Like if I'm working on a fiction film, like 12 people or so is a fantastic sort of number to work on. Again, it depends on what you're doing. I was on the set of 24 about 3 years ago, and these guys have been working together for the entire show plus previous show. They've been together like 9 years, and there was almost nothing said between them. They all knew exactly what was needed from each other, and it was astonishing to watch such a slick operation. These guys are shooting film 3 cameras at a time, and they were shooting as fast as you shoot video because they work as a team. I think that's essential. And I had this woman ask me the other day, she was shooting this interview and the interviewer was absolutely terrible, was not getting any of the right questions, and she said to me, what do I do? Do I say something about it? And I went, no. If you are the client or you're in charge, then fine. But you cannot say to that interviewer, you need to ask these questions because you were hired as the camera operator. Now, but if you have a relationship with that person by this point, they will be they should be very happy with you if you pull them aside. Why don't you ask these things? And then, oh God, I've missed that. Thanks so much. But if you don't know them, it can be a really awkward situation. It's equivalent of you if you're the interviewer saying to the cameraman, like, your light's in the wrong place. That should be over there. Sorry, you're the interviewer. What are you telling me to do? And you end up, everybody hating each other. That's the importance of working with people you know and developing that crew. You'll always work with new people, and that's when trust needs to be developed.
Well, we find that here actually it's brilliant because we do these kind of these late events quite regularly. And it's all because, especially, they're always with people in your position who are very experienced in their area, but we do people with fashion, people with design, and always different people on the team have kind of ideas and thoughts and inputs, and we like to talk to each other and kind of pass those things on and help ourselves work as best we can together.
You just got to be, you just literally got to be as, so it's all downstairs, is there a fine line between confidence and arrogance? I'm like, I don't think so. I think they're completely different. I could, a confidence is somebody who knows what they want, but is, very authoritative and very happy with what they've got. Now, if you said to me, I've got everything I need, fantastic, thank you very much. That's confidence, and that's great. Whereas arrogance is, somebody, he says, if he said to you, I'd like to ask this, and you're like, I don't need that. I've asked all the questions I need. Everything is fine. That comes across more as arrogance and confidence. So I think I don't think there's a fine line. I think confidence is one of the most important things you can develop as a filmmaker in every single part you do, whether you're a sound man, whether you're a spark, whether you're a DP or director. Having confidence is the best thing, and not just that, a great attitude. I've worked with people who have the worst attitude in the world, most miserable bastards. And you know what? If you have a miserable bastard who's above you, it makes you miserable. And then you're miserable, which means the person who's below you miserable. And before you know it, the whole set is just full of misery. And all it takes is that person to just actually smile and be happy and be nice. Changes the whole thing. Nothing worse than working on a long shoot where it's just pure misery. That's when you I just want to be out of this. I've had that. I've had those sort of situations.
And that's what you said in your presentation, where you were like, what will you allow yourself to do? And everyone said, porn. We won't do porn. And you said, why not? And he said, what we won't do is what people who are bloody miserable or who kind of, are taking the mick with you.
Yeah, well, I think the most important thing is just do stuff and be happy. If porn makes you happy, shoot porn. I'm not bothered by it. If you want to shoot porn, I'm mostly fine with it. I did a workshop, and one of the guys came to my workshop in Toronto, I think it was, shoots gay porn. I'm like, okay. Well, it's good. He wants to lift his production values. He's come to my workshop. Fantastic.
Did he ask you advice on lighting skin tone, or what was it?
I think he was more interested in how to use his new technology, whether it could be useful, and lifting his filmmaking and storytelling techniques. I think storytelling in porn is a great thing to put into it. Why not? I'm not prudish, or I don't care what people, as long as they're happy doing. I'm not going to judge it. If people want to make films about quantum physics, and I have no interest in that, I don't care. If it makes them happy, great. If they want to make films about religions I don't care about, then that's fine. If they want to make things for just their local church, as long as they're happy doing it, that's absolutely fine. I don't think anybody should be judgmental about anything anybody does. If this is the sort of type of films you want to make and you're enjoying it, then you are happy. That's the most important thing. At the end of the day, we need to be happy. A talented filmmaker who's shooting what they want and is miserable is still a miserable person. I find that amazing. That I come across so many people like that. I'm like, you should be the happiest person in the world, and you're a miserable bastard.
Really? Do you find that? Do you find that often that people?
Yeah. So many people are really miserable.
Have you worked out some kind of logic as to why they're like this? Or
I think some people are just miserable. And some people go off an amazingly positive aura. I know some people will just. I think they're just and you often find this with talented people, especially creatives, is they are incredibly difficult people to work with. They're very miserable. That's the problem you can come across, and it can they're talking about big movie directors that are like that, and it's not fun because, as I say, it affects the whole feeling of everybody around there.
Is it more kind of like a diva-ish way, or just like they deal with things in kind of?
I would say diva is, you tend to find divas more with sort of on-screen talent than anything else. Definitely more with on-screen talent, and you know what? That's fine. You expect it. I expect them to be more divas, and the bigger the star, the younger the star, more likely to be divas. The more experienced star, they tend to kind of gone past all that. That kind of like, I'm whatever. The off-camera ones who are really difficult, everybody has a different personality. Everybody's happy. It could be anything. It could be a home life. It could be, they could hate what they do, but still genius at it. You never know. And there's obviously some real tyrants who are very, very, very dictator style shoots and stuff like that. You know what that means, don't you? There's people who worked on that film, they won't want to work with you again. So I think it's important to be happy, and if it means shooting littler things, smaller things, then do it, because there's nothing worse than not enjoying the privilege that you have of working in film and TV, because it is a privilege, because it's not a proper job. It's not a proper job. It's a hobby. We're creating. Creativeness is a hobby, and I'm lucky enough to get paid to do what I would do if I wasn't getting paid.
It's funny, sometimes those things do come. You do get those realizations, like watching what's it called, Super 16 or something, with the movie Spielberg made after they'd made these kid movies when they were. Kids.
Super 8.
Yeah, Super 8 after and they were just things they'd shot as kids, and then years later now he kind of made a film about kids doing exactly what he used to do. Yeah. And it's just kind of people, their hobby, kind of their indulgence of their love of the art form.
I think you know when people love what they do, and I still find it incredible that the people love doing parts of the job that I find the worst. I hate dealing with clients, for example, but I have producers I work with who love it. They love it. I'm like, how can you love this? But they love it, and that's great. You know why? Because I don't have to do it, because they're enjoying what they're doing. I like editing, but I don't love it because it sucks up my life. But I know people who will be happy if they never come into daylight ever again and just stay in their edit suite. And as long as they're happy, that's great. I think finding something that you really enjoy. If everybody wants to be a director, then we're going to have real problems. And that's if you want to be a sound recordist, you're going to find more work being a sound recordist. But only if you want to be a sound recordist. Don't do it because there's going to be more work doing this, because you won't enjoy it. You may not, you may do. But I think specialising in certain less obvious things often yields more successful careers than the obvious ones. Everybody wants to be a DP and everybody wants to be a director, and that's a problem, because how many directors and DPs do you need on a shoot? One. And then you say, okay, well, you can be the gaffer. Right, okay, I'll be the gaffer on this one. It's good to find these roles and you enjoy it. I know grips who have no ambition to be anything other than grips. They love it. Because I guess there's no responsibility. Responsibility of the DP is huge. Responsibility of the director is even bigger. Being a grip means you go in, you have fun, you enjoy it, and then you go home. Great.
You find that probably in what you do, you have kind of quite a good balance with that, because you do hold some responsibilities, but you don't always necessarily take on the heaviest load.
Sometimes I take on stuff which is, I wish I didn't. But if you want to push yourself, sometimes you've got to put yourself into jobs which have a lot of responsibility. Especially if you have money involved. If money's involved and people are investing and stuff, it's your responsibility to make it the best thing possible. Now, if you're just mucking around for yourself, that's different. But if you're working for a client and they're paying you a good money, it doesn't matter, any client, to be honest with you, you have a responsibility to make that the best thing. And how stressful that is down to you and how you deal with it. The only time I really get stressed over shoots is when it's impossible to do something. I haven't been given enough time, for example, and they're insisting to have all this done, and I'm like, this isn't getting done. We won't get this done. I promise you. I would have told them beforehand. Or edits, which ridiculous times that they want stuff delivered in. That sort of thing is stressful. Like, you have a half-hour program to cut in 2 days, and we have 18 hours of rushes. How am I going to do this? Those times you get stressful when it's unrealistic. Other times, having this responsibility is good. You have to be in a position where I have a lot of experience now, and I can tell people before we do anything, this is not going to work. I'm not being negative. I just be realistic. I'm not trying to get more days out of you, but 3 days or 2 days is not enough. We need at least one more day. You have all these pages of script. We're not going to get it done, and to get it finished and coloured is going to take longer than you've given to be done. So, if they don't listen to you, they say no, we're going to go ahead with it. I got asked to shoot a half-hour program in a day, and I said it's not going to be done. We can't do it. He says, yes, I can. We can do it. I'm like, no. I turned it down. Flat turned it down. That's the difference. I turned it down. Now, had I done it,
got made? Do you know whether that got made? Whether it happened?
I got sent the end result, and you know what? It was shit. It was basically shit. It looked awful. It was unwatchable because it was a half-hour program shot in a day. It was like 5-minute piece to cameras from the presenter of the same shot. It was awful. It's like radio, effectively, with a guy talking in front of the camera. That's what it was. Yeah, you could do it in a day, but I wouldn't want to watch it. If you want to do things properly, you need to take time. And I'm not the sort of person who would take advantage. The short piece for Sony about the boxer, I was given 2 days to shoot it. I said I want 1. I got paid a day less to do it, but I didn't need 2 days. I'm not going to take advantage of the client just because they're offering me money. I needed 1 day, and I only shot half a day. So and that's good. The client's happy. He actually said he only wants 1 day. That's really good. And then they'll hire you again because you're not taking advantage of them.
Fantastic. I know we're a little pressed for time. I just want to say that my cameraman has asked me if he could pass another question on quickly.
The last great question that will be, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Just at Ravensbourne, we have a lot of thing about sort of broadcast versus film, and lots of people on like the digital film course go broadcast.
You mean like this film, as in theatrical?
No, sorry, as in kind of feature films and documentary, that kind of thing. We have a course called digital film production. So
it's not for broadcast, not for TV at all.
No, well.
It will end up on TV. That sounds.
They make fiction and shorts, and we're supposed to make straight old school TV.
They have this big thing of all sort of broadcast and it's broadcast cameras versus their film cameras and all that kind of thing. And I think from your kind of background of going through that kind of development through Sky, I was wondering, and especially over in America, actually, like the thing between broadcast and sort of film is sort of less sort of distant. And I just wondered what your
Yeah.
opinion was on your advice for people that kind of say, well, you know, like, do you think people should still go through like a broadcast route, or like go through news, for example, to tell stories? Has that helped and that kind of thing?
Working news helped me tell stories, learn to tell stories, you know, and helped me learn to work faster. I think the difference between sort of theatrical work or fiction work and traditional TV, you know, whether it's reality or documentary or drama, the whole sort of technology is sort of converging in that people using the same cameras, and so you'll have TV shows, a lot of TV shows which are daytime TV shows on BBC and ITV that is they shot on the C300, and these are effectively cinema cameras turned by Canon with Super 35 sensors, and it looks great. It looks great. Production values have been lifted. Things look great. The days where you just use 2.7-inch broadcast cameras for TV and you'd use Super 16 or Super 35 for fiction, they're gone. We do still have smaller sensor cameras being used, 2.3-inch broadcast sensors, and 3rd-inch for, like, you know, self-shooters, because it's easier and they haven't concentrated so much. But I think the whole sort of differentiation isn't really there, and I think that's really the most important thing. Is, you know, don't get caught up on, I work in this and you work in broadcast, so it doesn't matter. You know what? Some of the best work, the most exciting stuff at the moment is being done on TV by far. You watch American TV shows, you know, things like, you know, Game of Thrones, Walking Dead, Breaking Bad, that sort of stuff is so much better than what you go and see in movies. Quite often, doesn't always the case, but generally. So TV, broadcast, the whole stigma I see in industry is completely gone. Working in broadcast TV is not lesser than working in film. Far from it. People are doing the best work of their lives in TV. If you get a chance to work in TV and you've set sight on, you know, being in the local Odeon, it doesn't matter. TV will probably get you a better audience and a chance to do stuff which you could never get a chance to in a feature film.